is and how we can use it to transform our life. And so I've decided to do, first we'll do a little bit of a discussion. So I'll talk to you just a little bit on some topics on intuition, and I will guide you into some meditation. And we will have some time for some question and answers as well. So, okay, so I see that more and more people are joining in. Welcome to everyone joining in. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you if I have not met you already. And okay. I just want to know if everyone can hear me. I believe everyone can, but if someone can write in the chat, yes. So I just want to, I think somebody just wrote yes. So I'm just going to ask one other person to type yes. Okay, perfect. Great. That's done. Okay. So usually the way I like to do this is have an interactive chat before I go into the topic. It is a little different online. So our intuition. So let's use the chat for a little while. I just want to get a sense of everyone. I will let you guys unmute in a little while to ask questions. But before we begin, I'd like to get a sense from everyone. So what pulled you or what attracted you to this specific topic, this specific workshop or seminar? What is it that you would like to learn about? What is it that perhaps bothers you, or I like to say trips you up about intuition? There's a lot of common questions that I get all the time. And so I just want to see. So if you guys want to type in the chat, just a few things. So what brought you here this evening on a Saturday evening at 6 p.m.? What brought you here? What is it about intuition that you would really like to understand? I just would like to get a sense of the group. So I just want to kind of tune into your energy before I continue. Okay, so a couple of you are starting. So understanding how to gain from our own intuitions, how to identify what is intuition and random thoughts. Yes, that's a very, very asked question. We'll talk about that a little bit. So anyone else, what is it that brought you here? Why have you been attracted to this specific topic? What would you like to get or gain or learn? So yeah, you guys can type it into the chat. I'm looking at the chat right now. Okay. Learning family constellation, a big part of his intuition. I had been practicing it, but have difficulty accessing it. Yeah. Allow how to trust intuition. I want to know how can I hear my intuition clearly and make it strong? Okay. Okay, so how to differentiate between intuition and a thought on top of mind, also how to better my intuitions. Yeah, so I do get a lot of those questions. So first, let me just introduce myself a little bit. Of course, as you guys know, my name is Bianca and I work at Illuminations in the JLT branch. I am a clairvoyant, so I'm a clairvoyant psychic. I do clairvoyant readings, intuitive readings. I'm also an energy healer, regression therapist, and coach. And I started, I guess, working with intuition like many of us. We're born with it. So naturally it comes to us when we are born. And as we get a little older, it sort of trickles away, trickles down, gets quieter, quieter, quieter until it sort of disappears. Until one day it sort of reappears in the sense of us or I, for example, going through certain things in life and then thinking to myself, oh yeah, I knew that. I thought of that, intuitively I knew that, my gut told me, but then I didn't really listen to it. So over time, that was happening more and more often, and I sort of came into the spiritual world and really found my place within the psychic, clairvoyant, intuitive world, and I spent a lot of time in that world, dabbling in it, learning from it, you know, receiving readings, getting readings, doing the trainings, until at some point I realized that my intuition was coming through and I wasn't questioning anymore. I knew. It was a knowing, not only that I knew, because a lot of people will say, I had this knowing, I just know, but then the mind sort of takes over, and then we sort of go with the mind as opposed to the intuition. And so at some point after doing the trainings and after sort of practicing a lot, I started to just fall in and lean into my intuition, and I started just going with it. So some people might say, yeah, I started to go with the flow, or I started to lean into it. And that's kind of what happened for me. At some point, it was just coming through, and it was just part of who I was, what I was doing, the decisions I was making. I wasn't questioning myself as much. I wasn't doubting myself as much. I started to trust myself a lot more. And over time, I started to see that my experiences in life were changing because I wasn't doubting, and I wasn't falling so deeply into the emotional well of fears and all those sort of emotions that take over us sometimes, and help us, or, you know, kind of derail us, right? And so this is why I named this seminar Transforming Your Life. I deeply and truly believe that our intuition, number one, it's our birthright. It's something that we are born with. It is not something that we have to get outside of ourselves. It is something that is within ourselves. It is just something that we sort of have to rediscover. It's already inside. We just need to go back in there and rediscover it and allow it to come through, and then allow it to guide us, to lead us in our life. And so this is why I named it Transforming Your Life, because I deeply, deeply believe that my intuition and developing my intuition and understanding what it was really, truly, truly, truly was one of the biggest pieces of my own personal transformation. And that is why I like to sort of teach it. I use it a lot in my sessions, and I really like and love helping people understand that, number one, it is not something that you have to develop in the sense of developing something because you don't have it. We all have it. It is something, again, I'm going to repeat, that we are born with. However, we forget. So little young children are very, very connected to their intuitive abilities. And as they get older, and as the parental conditioning or educational conditioning or society conditioning starts to get stronger in their life, that influence starts to get stronger, that voice starts to get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And then what happens is that energy sort of transmutes into our mind, and then we sort of flow and follow our mind. Now, there's a lot of different things I can speak about intuition, and because I'm not really getting all of your energy and sort of desires, and I really love to kind of do these seminars and workshops based on what exactly is everyone looking for. But I'm going to just pull out a few things about intuition, and then we'll go into questions. So just a couple of things. Intuition is, again, something that we have, something that we're born with, something that dims, but it is always there. And I am sure that if I ask each one of you, have you had an intuitive experience? Many and most, and I almost want to say all of you will say, yes, I did, but I wasn't sure. As I read before in the comments, I wasn't sure if it was my mind. I wasn't sure if it was just my thoughts. I wasn't sure if it was my emotions. Was it somebody else? Was it? And it becomes very, very confusing, overwhelming. And then what happens is that we don't end up listening to it. And more often than not, we sort of kick ourselves and say, oh, I should have listened. I should have listened. I should have went there. I should have done this. And that's okay. Now, if we can take those experiences, all the ones where we didn't listen and we should have listened, instead of sort of beating ourselves up for it or judging ourselves or kind of kicking ourselves and saying, oh, you did it again. How could you do that? Just for a moment, and we'll do a little exercise together, just for a moment. This is how we learn. This is exactly how I learned, and this is how we learn. Yes, I had teachers and guidance and training, but the way that I learned the most was something would happen. I would get a thought via the intuition channel, and I wouldn't listen, and then it would happen, and then I would sort of kick myself. And then over time, I started to ease up on myself and say, okay, wait a minute, This is exactly how it's developing. So a lot of people will say, oh, how do you develop your intuition? And I always answer back, it's practice. And it's not necessarily always practice sitting and meditating or practice by doing exercises, because that is also very important, yes, but it's practice through awareness and through watching and observing yourself closely. So, for example, I mean, you can take multitude of examples. If you want to do something, and our intuition comes through all the time. That's another kind of key, that it's always there. It's sort of always there in the background working, yet we're not sort of attuned to sort of tuning into and listening to that subtle voice, but it is always there. From the food that we eat, we go into a restaurant and we want to order a meal on the menu and we're not sure what to order. What should I order? Should I order the fry? Should I order the salad? Should I do the healthy thing? Should I do the not so healthy thing? In that moment, our intuition is there. In that very simple moment of choosing food, right up into the more complex moments of, should I continue in this relationship or not? Is this really where I need to be going, who I need to be with or not? Now, that's a very simple example of where intuition comes in, and on the opposite range, a very more complex example of where our intuition comes, but it's always there. It's sort of like the string in the background, sort of, it's our guide, it's our support system. And a lot of people like to call it a higher self. It is the soul part of us. So as a human, right, as we're living this human life, we get very, very, very sort of caught up and involved in life stuff, job, family, hobbies, our purpose, all these life things sort of get in the way and keep us sort of really, really busy, really occupied. And our mind is sort of always going, and then it gets in the loops and the loops and the loops. And then some of us are worriers, some of us have anxiety, some of us, you know, are stuck in the past, some are stuck in the future. And all of those places, in a sense, disconnects us a little bit more and a little bit more from ourself. And when that happens, it's very difficult to hear that voice, quote unquote, that voice, which is the one more connected to our spirit, to our soul, to who we truly are, outside and beside all of the noise. And now I'm saying this because I do it, I still do it, I've done it. We're all sort of in this human game together, and we all get distracted and we all get pulled outside of ourselves. And that's usually tends to be where we suffer most, is when we're pulled out of ourselves, pulled out of what I call our center. And it is in that center place where we can hear the most, where we can tap into and tune into our intuition. So a lot of times it's the practice. So going back to the practice, is practicing just becoming aware of your thoughts, or aware of your behavior, or aware of your reaction. Oh, so for example, I got really triggered here, for example, that person upset me and I reacted this way. So just observe. Can we start to move from self-judgment to just self-observation? Now, this is a huge step for some. And this is, I want to say, I'm choosing a proper word here. I don't want to use the word easy, but a very, very practical and powerful way to start tapping and tuning into yourself, reconnecting to yourself, and reconnecting to your intuition. You always know. You always know. And I'm going to repeat it again, probably again. You always know. We always know. We always know what is best and what is right, except the noise. So this sort of, what do you call it? I don't want to call it a barrier, but this sort of chunk, let's say, of noise is really what gets in the way of us being able to, number one, either tap into it or go with it, trust it, follow it. There's two pieces here to intuition that I get asked so many times. Is number one, and I, like you guys mentioned in some of the comments, how do I know if it's my intuition or it's my thoughts, or if it's my emotional kind of chaos or it's my intuition? And then the other piece is, how do I really follow it? Because number one, we have to understand, slow down, tune in to start hearing it. So that's first step. So I would call that the first step. We got to slow down. We got to become more aware to hear it. And then we need to find the courage within to follow it, to lead with it, because understanding it and hearing it is one thing, but then being able to follow it and kind of lead with it and go with it is a completely other thing. So for example, I'll use the more complex example of relationships. So for example, I'm in this relationship, but within me, deep within me, I know I shouldn't be. Or I'm in this relationship and I really love this person, but this is really something that I can't accept for myself. And deep down, there's just this knowing, and this knowing does not go away. Intuition doesn't go away. It's not like we can just wipe it clear and it goes away. That knowing, that gnawing is always there. And so hearing it is one thing. So we can give it some time. We can give it our ears and hear it. But then how can we move into following it? And if I take, I'm just taking just random examples, but if I take the example of a relationship, well, it takes an immense amount of courage. It can take an immense amount of courage to say, you know what? Yes, I know that this is not the relationship for me. I should not be in it. And now I need to follow that intuition, that voice, that higher knowing, that all knowing, that truth, that inner truth. So these are two places when I talk intuition that are very important to understand. So if we just go to the first part, getting quiet, becoming aware. So the practice is, like I said, going from the self-judge right into the self-observer. So one little practice that I can invite you guys into this evening is, from this point forward, you guys can keep a journal if you want. You don't necessarily have to. You can keep kind of a note on your phone, but for 7 days, just for 7 days, start to observe where you go into judgment. Oh, I should have not went out with my friend tonight. I should have taken the night for myself so I can do self-care. Or I shouldn't have taken on that extra project because now I'm feeling really tired and I'm feeling stressed and I shouldn't have. So when we hear the words should, shouldn't, it's a sign, an indication that there's a bit of a judgment there. And this is also a really nice place to go into, find the little pockets of where intuition can be. So I would invite you to start by tracking the places where you judge yourself. And then when you find those places, just see if you can observe it. Oh, I said yes to this project. However, inside of me, there was something, and that something, of course, is that intuition, was saying, no, you have enough on your plate. You need more rest. Now, just diverting a little bit, a lot of times why we don't listen to our intuition is because we're driven, right? We want more, we want to do more. We have these belief systems that maybe we're not good enough. And so if we're not good enough, that means I have to do more. And if I do more, I can prove myself, and I prove myself, then I'll be good enough. And there's this chain that happens. And when we get to here, when we think that we've done all we can do to be good enough, to be accepted, to be valued, this chain, yeah, maybe will be valued in the outside, in the external world, perhaps. Not even guarantee, but this chain of following that drive, that mind play that says, you got to do more, Because if you do more, then you'll be recognized. And if you're recognized, then you'll be better. And if you're better, then you'll be good enough. And this sort of chain may bring us some sort of external satisfaction, but at what cost? And the cost is that disconnection from this place, this quiet, I want to say even soft place of deep inner wisdom. Our intuition is like our inner wisdom. It's our fail-proof guide. Again, it's always there for us. But when we ignore the guide and we go after what we think that we want, or what we go after what we think we should have or need or do, there's a big disconnect. So a lot of times, one of our first steps in connecting back to self is slowing down, getting more quiet, going within. Meditation is a really, really, really important and great way to start reconnecting with the intuition. Grounding, I can go on and talk about so many things, but another little quick thing I wanna tap into is grounding. When we are not grounded, it is very difficult to be connected to self and to listen to that voice and to hear that voice, because we're sort of out all over here. And so some of you may understand grounding, some of you may not understand grounding, but grounding is really just the ability, in a very quick nutshell, I'm not going to go deeply into it at this moment, is the ability to kind of be here now in this moment. So I'm here sitting in this chair, I'm doing this seminar, and I'm fully here. I feel my body on this chair, and I feel this moment. My mind is sort of not from in the past or the future or worried or in different places. I'm able to be here. It's our ability to connect literally with the ground beneath us. So when we're not grounded, we can be lightheaded, or we can lose things often, or we can sort of be, you can see people that are always kind of looking with their eyes up, and they're in another world. They're daydreamers. So daydreamers, now this is a little complex, because daydreamers, you can even connect to your intuition, but a lot of times it's really hard to hear it, what is happening. So meditation is a really great tool to start to come here now, to start to ground and to start to connect with ourself, to start to get a little more quiet, because in the beginning, especially, it's very important to get quiet so we can hear the subtleties, that subtle voice, the subtle words, the subtle messages, and they can come in different ways, which I will not completely go into it. There's different ways that our intuition comes through. So our intuition can come through our six senses, society would call six senses. It's our extrasensory perception, and that comes in through subtle hearing, through subtle seeing, through subtle feeling, or subtle knowing. Those are the main ways that the information, that our intuition comes to us. So each one of us will have a different way how that intuition flows to us. And it's also important to start to understand that. And how can we? One of the first ways, again, is through meditation. It doesn't have to be an hour sitting long meditation, guided meditation. Just allowing yourself 5 minutes a day to just be. No phones, no nothing, just be. Even if you take a shower or a bath or wash the dishes or whatever it is that you're doing, you can still be in that moment, and it can be meditative. And that can be part of developing your intuition. So I'm not saying got to develop your intuition, got to sit 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day and go hardcore. No, we don't want to go hardcore. We don't want to force this. We want to allow this. Our intuition is more in the realm of the feminine energy. We want to allow it to come through. So if we can convert some of our daily activities into more of a present moment awareness or present moment experience for us, right there, you're developing your intuition, because you're starting to slow down. You're starting to pay attention. You're starting to observe. So if I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm really just brushing my teeth and my mind is not somewhere else and I'm grounded, I'm present to brushing my teeth, my intuition can come through right there and then. So again, there's so much that I can say about this topic, and without really feeling you guys and getting to know where you each are at in your lives, I'm sort of keeping it broad in general, and I'm going in a few different directions. One thing I want to address before we do a little bit of a meditation and I go into the questions is the question, how do I know when it's my intuition or when it's my thought system? So around for it's really when you feel as much as you can. When you I'm traffic and I'm thinking about I think it might I think we're good, and I'm thinking about my day at the office, and I'm really deep in thought, and I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm driving and I can't believe this happened and I can't believe that happened, and I'm going over and over and over it in my mind. And then all of a sudden I say, well, wait a minute, maybe my boss didn't ask me because of this and that. And then you go into, oh, he didn't ask me or she didn't ask me because this person took the job and I couldn't get the project done. And then we go into the mind. So the mind tends to loop, and we tend, and when it's a mind or when it's a thought process, number one, it tends to loop. So we don't just stay in one spot, it loops into another thought and it loops into another thought and another and another and another. And it's like we're ruminating, we're going over and over and over again. You can rest assured that's not your intuition. Rest assured it's not your intuition. But if I'm driving down, you know, the highway and I'm driving and I'm kind of listening to a music or listening to a song and I'm singing and I'm in a neutral-ish place where my mind is not really kind of with this barrage of thoughts, and I'm sort of just listening to music and I'm sort of going my way. And then all of a sudden there's a thought. It's kind of like it kind of comes in. There's a thought that comes in. You can say thought, it's intuition, but it's an image will come in, or a feeling will come in, or yes, a thought may come in and say, oh, perhaps I didn't get chosen for the project because X, Y, and Z. There you can, I don't want to say rest assured, but be more sure that that is intuition coming through. Intuition generally comes through when you're not thinking about it, when it just sort of lands in you, when you don't think about it all, when you're not trying to think about it, you're just allowing it to happen. A lot of times intuition can come through when we're doing something a little bit more creative. So for example, listening to music, taking a walk, cooking. It can be when we're completely immersed in something, again, present moment, in something, brushing our teeth. And all of a sudden we just have this passing thought. So that's kind of just one way. Again, there's so many different ways I can go into helping you guys understand the difference between thoughts and intuition. The key thing that I want to just kind of reiterate is it really is practice. It really, really is practice. And that exercise of starting to observe self when you're in judgment and when you're putting all those shoulds, and becoming sort of helping yourself transform into the self-observer. Oh, interesting. I reacted that way. Interesting. So it's one key steps, because what's happening is that you're slowing down, you're becoming more self-aware, you are understanding the dynamics of things a little bit better, so that means that you're tapping into somebody else's energy, your own energy, you're watching yourself, you're becoming your own self-observer, the observer, and that is super powerful for many different things. So especially when it comes to intuition. So another way, of course, you can develop the intuition is by taking a training, workshops, trainings. I mean, there's a lot of trainings. I also do a training that I'll talk about right at the end of this kind of call. But it's practice again. whatever training you do, whatever book you read, wherever you go, whatever you hear, it's practice. And again, just to kind of reiterate it one more time, is that it doesn't necessarily mean you got to sit in meditation 20 minutes a day and practice being intuitive. It's taking it into your daily life and becoming observant of yourself, slowing down a little bit, becoming less of the judge, more of the neutral observer. Intuition comes through when there's neutrality, when there's neutralness, when you're able to be grounded and be neutral. And it is very difficult. I'm just going to kind of throw this in there a little bit. When we are very emotionally attached to the outcome or to something specifically happening, it can be quite difficult to remain neutral, because of course we want something specific to happen. We want a specific outcome to happen. So it can be kind of difficult to remain neutral. And in that moment, it's a little bit more difficult to connect with your intuition or trust that voice coming through, because it may more be connected to what it is that you deeply want, as opposed to what it is that your spirit, your soul needs. So yeah, it's really also coming from the head, you know, moving from the head a little bit more deeply into the heart space, into the softness of self, into the flow of self, into coming a little bit more from the masculine self of doer into the feminine self of be. How can I just be in this moment and just observe what is happening in this moment? What's going on? How do I feel in this moment? What does my body want? What do I deeply want? So this is a little bit different than this. So of course there's many different exercises, but like I said, one of the best exercises is really to start becoming observant and practice. And so let's do a little bit of, okay, so I'm wondering, should I do questions first or should I do meditation first? Let's do a little bit of a meditation first. So there's so many different meditations we can do. I do teach clairvoyant training. I do, and that means is that, what that means is that we're training our intuitive ability through the clairvoyant, we're training our intuition through the clairvoyant ability. That's what that means. And clairvoyance is our ability to see. So we get information through images, through pictures, through kind of these movies. And so in that training, I do a lot of meditations. But for the purpose of this, I'd like us to sort of, let's get quiet. So you can close your eyes. And we're going to take in 3 deep breaths. So breathing in through the nose, very slowly. So you want to slow this down, slow this process down. Already when we're slow the breath down, we're starting to connect to that intuitive part of us. Or any single time when we slow down, we're starting to reconnect. Now, yeah, so let's just kind of go into it. So breathing in through the nose, slowly, fully, completely. And exhaling from the mouth, fully and completely. So you want to exaggerate that exhale and just allow yourself to release everything, stress, tension, whatever it is within through the breath. Just letting go, letting go, and letting go. You do not need to know what you are letting go of. You just want to allow yourself to let go. So you want to get comfortable. We're only going to do this for a few moments, but nonetheless, you want to allow yourself to get comfortable, allow your body to either lie back or sit back, breathing in through your nose. And exhaling from your mouth fully and completely. And now, Feel yourself sitting on this chair, on the floor, or the bed, wherever it is you find yourself, or wherever it is that you are. Allow yourself to just be sitting. And step outside of yourself. So it's as if a miniature you steps outside of yourself in the front of you and turns around to face you. So a little you just jumps out of you and turns around and faces you. You can grow that little you a little bit bigger to your regular size. So it's just a carbon copy you just standing there in front of you, watching you. No judgment. Now you want to observe yourself sitting on the chair, lying on the bed. See your body. See your body sitting there or lying there. And see your body in this room that you're in. See your body in the house that the room is in. And then observe yourself like you're standing outside of the house and you can see into the room where you're sitting. And then expand a little bit bigger. So yourself, that observer self, is expanding a little bit bigger, and you're now starting to see yourself in your own neighborhood. So you see your neighborhood, and then you see the house that you're in, the room that you're in, the chair or bed that you're in. And now you're expanding your observer self a little bit more, and you are seeing the city that you are in, going in, the neighborhood that you are in, going in, the house that you're in, the room that you're in, the chair that you're in. And just watch. Just be. And allow yourself to bring your awareness back deeply into yourself, that you that is sitting on that chair or lying on that bed in the city, in the neighborhood, in your house, in your room, on the chair. And what is this you feeling right now? First impression that comes to you. Don't need to get involved in any story. Just allow yourself to see, feel, hear. What is it that you sitting on that chair, lying in the bed, that you is feeling right now? And what is that you needing right now? Do not go into the mind that says you need this, but you can't have it. No. What is it that you need? Allow yourself to be with your deep truth. Allow yourself to be with your intuitive self, your soul self. It does not matter what comes. Just allow whatever comes. No judgment. And you can take a deep breath in, so breathing in through your nose and exhaling from your mouth, fully and completely. And you can open your eyes for a moment, and we're going to go quickly into another little meditation. So I just want you guys to open your eyes. We're going to do a little talking after. And now let's go in again. So close your eyes one more time. So just close your eyes one more time. Taking a breath from the nose and exhaling from the mouth fully and completely. Now, just be there on this chair or lying on this bed, on the ground. Again, tuning into how you feel in this moment. Now, allow yourself to go back in time to a moment in which you said, I should have listened to myself. I should have listened to my intuition, to my gut, to that feeling, to that thought, and I didn't. Just go back to that very moment, no judgment. And from that moment, allow yourself to go back even more to the moment where you decided not to go or trust or follow that gut or intuitive feeling. So go back to that situation. And when you're there, go into your body. Go into your body. And bring back, recall that exact moment where your mind said something else. And in that moment where you said something else to yourself about the situation, go into the body and feel, where is it that you are feeling it in your body? Where is that energy coming from? And what does it feel like when that energy comes to you? When that intuition comes to you? It may be subtle. And this whole exercise may be very subtle for you, and that's okay. And just sort of take a snapshot of how it was in a very slight moment to feel energy, information coming to you that was kind of giving you some information, guiding you, informative, maybe wisdom. We're not concerned about what comes after, that you chose it or you didn't choose it. We're just concerned at this moment with how that felt in an instant, how that felt. And some may feel it in different parts of their body. Some may feel it in different ways, but just sort of snapshot it. Now, when you have, you can come right back into the space. So you can open your eyes, taking a deep breath in. So breathing in through your nose and exhaling from your mouth. And now this was very quick. And when we work with intuition, it's quick. It's not, even though we have to slow down to kind of tap into it, it's not like our thoughts. Our thoughts can feel really heavy and they can feel like really long and drawn out. We can think of one thought for 5 hours. We can literally think of one thought for 5 hours. We cannot have intuition on one situation or one thought form in for 5 hours. Intuition kind of comes in, and it feels different. So I'm talking more about the feeling as opposed to seeing other senses. For this seminar, for this purpose, I'm really just talking about the feeling of it. So here you have 3 tools that I can leave you with to start developing your intuition. So one, again, I'm just very quickly, and then I'll get into questions, the self-judge. Watch that self-judge. And when it comes in, either you can record it or you can sort of say, or you can remember it at the end of the day. You can say, oh yeah, I judge myself here, here, and there. Now, how can I become more observant? And so we want to start to move from self-judger to self-observer, one. And yeah, there's multiple ways to do it, but just one very simple way is just watching, just becoming observing. Oh yeah, I judge myself again. I judge myself again. And then one moment will happen where you don't judge, will you actually observe? It will happen. If the intention is there, and especially if you're recording it, it can really help. Two, take 2-minute check-ins with yourself, just 2 minutes or 1 minute, 60-second check-ins throughout the day. You can put a timer on your phone, and you can just throughout the day go in, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths in, exhaling from your mouth. How am I feeling right now? What's happening for me right now? And yes, for some, this might be a little difficult because sometimes what's happening is sadness, or what's happening is maybe some uncomfortable feeling and sensation. But we want to see how we can just be with whatever is happening, because if we're constantly afraid of whatever we're feeling, we're going to continue disconnecting from ourselves. And when we disconnect from ourselves, we disconnect more and more from that intuition, which can really guide us out of the sadness, guide us out of the anger, or whatever sort of negative emotion that we feel that we're afraid of. So 60 seconds, tune-ins, check-ins. How am I feeling? What is happening for me right now? And it's just number one, identifying and observing it and not doing anything more. Oh yeah, I feel this, and what do I need? What do I feel? What do I need? I need a break. I need a big glass of water. How many times have we done work and we forget to drink water? That's our intuition coming through, the thirst in our body, and our intuition is very connected. It's thirst. It's like, hey, I'm thirsty, but we choose to ignore. So just very simply, what do I feel right now? What's happening? How am I feeling? And what do I need? And then the third piece, which you can do this either on a daily basis, or you can do it on a weekly basis. You can do whenever you feel like, is it just sort of go in, check in and say, wait a minute, when did it happen where I chose something, but I knew I should have chosen that? So whenever that happens, and that can happen in any moment, any time. I turned left, I should have turned right. Now I'm in traffic, and that other way I probably would have been home faster. Okay, great. Another opportunity for you to practice. So just go back to that very moment right before you decided to sort of listen to the mind, or right before you made a decision. What were you feeling? What was happening? Where were you feeling that information that said, turn left? There's a subtle, very subtle, very, very subtle that said left, 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 left. Mind, very turn right. It's got to go right, got to go right. Left, left, got to go right, left, left. But if we can just sort of practice again, going to those very moments where we made those decisions that, oh, I should have listened to myself. Just go back to those moments, and right before you made the decision, just kind of rewind your own internal tape recorder and just go back to that moment and feel where is that coming from. Is it coming from outside? Is it a sensation inside? And again, that's just simple practice. That can take you literally a minute or a minute and a half. So these are just a very, very few brief ways where we can start to develop more and more our intuition. Again, reminder, it's really practice. And okay, so let's go to questions. There's a few moments left. So I think for some of the questions, I answered some of the questions, I believe. So let me just try and go back to the top. Okay. Yeah, somebody said something about family constellation. Developing our intuition can be used in all modalities. If you are a healer or a therapist, it really can be used in all modalities, from theta healing to hypno, regression therapy. I mean, really counseling, coaching, the intuition, when we start to be able to develop it and listen to it and understand it and trust it and use it in our life in all aspects can really change, including our career. So I just wanted to sort of mention that. I want to know how I can hear my intuition clearly, make it strong. So I did sort of answer all these questions. Now, okay, intuition and thought. So many sudden changes happen in my life. I really need more clarity as to how to proceed. Intuition can help. Yeah, so when there's a lot of changes happening in your life, there is transformation. Change is transformation. And so what I suggest there, when you see changes happening in your life, meditation, go just into meditation, literally just 3 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be more than that. 3 minutes a day, just go in. Go in, keep on going in, keep on going in. Eventually, the mind chatter will start to quiet down a little bit, and you can sort of get to the core of what's really happening for you inside. Yeah, thank you so much, Cheryl. When you said listening, I've been listening to meditation for 1.5 years now, and everything has changed. I'm trying to just read quickly through the questions so I just want to make sure I cover most of them. Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. You retyped some of those things. So somebody said, is gut feeling and intuition the same? It can be, and at the same time, it can't. It doesn't always necessarily mean that it is. So gut instinct, or that gut feeling, sometimes comes from instinct, which can be a little different than intuition. But for the purpose of this, generally, yes, a lot of people say I had a gut instinct, or I had a gut feeling, or something in me said, or I felt this. So for the purpose of this, I will say yes, it tends to be so. However, if we break it down and go a little bit more deeply into it, instinct is a little bit more different than intuition. Instinct is more of connected to our survival mechanism, as well as intuition is more connected to our, let's say, our divine wisdom. And both we have, both is necessary, but for the purpose of this, I'll say, yeah, gut feeling, yes, and intuition, I'll say, is the same for now. Oh, thank you. Okay. If we know where the voice of intuition feeling comes from, then what can be the next step? Okay, I'm just gonna see, there's one more question. So you said, if we know where the voice of intuition feeling comes from, then what can be the next step? Okay, so just going back to that exercise. So once we start to feel that feeling, right, thank you for asking that, that would be the next step. So when we start to practice and we start to tune into, oh yeah, last time I felt this way. What can start to happen is that naturally, either naturally we're going to start to follow that feeling. Naturally, we will begin to start, because we have been observing it over time. We have been catching ourselves, watching ourselves, and something sort of shifts into, it's kind of like self-trust naturally happens. You know, there's tons of ways we can develop our own self-trust, but just by getting quiet, becoming the observer, not judging self, going into recognizing where these feelings are coming from, understanding ourselves better, connecting to ourselves better, it's like the self-trust sort of just naturally starts to happen. And when that self-trust naturally starts to happen, then we are more inclined naturally again to just start going with it. And you may start to notice that happen. So continue the observation. That's what I would say as the third step. Once you start to know where it's coming from, every time it happens, just observe. Every time it happens, right before that decision is, you know, left or right, that quick decision I was talking about, observe where it's coming from. Observe the feeling that you have when it's there. And then notice when you do follow that intuition. The next step is notice when you do take that left turn instead of that right, and feel how do you feel? You feel there's this, it's sometimes hard to put words on these intangible feelings, but there's this sort of assuredness, this sort of solidness that you feel that no matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, you know, and that's really what matters the most. So it's a beautiful journey of self-confidence and self-trust and transformation. I mean, there's so much that really happens when we really start to tune in, slow down, tune in, listen, and then we naturally start to follow it. It just sort of becomes part of our life. So I'll leave that there. Yes, difference between being intuitive and being psychic. So Everyone has intuition. We're born with it. As well, everyone is really a psychic. We're born with it. However, psychic is a bit of a terminology. And psychic would be a couple, I mean, I can explain it in a couple of different ways, but a psychic uses their intuition. However, being intuitive doesn't necessarily mean that you're psychic. So being a psychic is that you really developed your faculties and you're constantly using them, either for yourself or others. And intuition is just sort of that subtle guidance throughout life. However, we're all psychic. We are all psychic. We're born with it. Similar to intuition, we are born with it. But a psychic will develop. So for example, develop their clairvoyance, or develop, a psychic has modality in which they work their psychic senses. So it can be clairvoyance, it can be tarot card reading, it can be clairaudience, it can be mediumship. There's so many different vehicles in which we can use that faculty. Intuition is sort of an all-rounder. It's in all those modalities, it's in all of us. And a psychic will just be sort of, I can say for the purpose of this, someone who develops that more and kind of goes into one of those paths to really, really develop it. But we're sort of all psychic, really, and all intuitive. So it's a little bit of a mishmash, but if you just really want to separate it, intuition is all of us. And a psychic will be the one that sort of develops it in a specific way. So I'll say that for now. To my knowledge, my intuition now in my body may change places, sensations. How do you see this? It can, it definitely can. Your intuition can come in and you can feel it in a certain way. It can be different ways, or it can be one way. So again, just becoming more observant. And I want to say one of our biggest superpowers is being self-observant, being our own observer. Because yes, sometimes it can come in a certain way, and sometimes for a while. So we go through phases. So for a long time, my intuition or my psychic abilities came in a certain way. And now they come in a different way. And eventually they can shift and change. So it depends on, you know, where you are in your life. It can depend on so many different aspects, but it can shift and change. Again, best way is to just be the observer, non-judgment observer. So I'll move on. Difference between, to my knowledge, my intuition. Okay. When your intuition says that your partner is betraying you and you get the proof to it, how? Okay, Andy. Okay, this is a heavy question, and I understand. When your intuition says that your partner is betraying you and you got the proof to it, how you are proves that you are right in a relationship. I'm not really understanding the exact question. So if you want to just I have another question here. If you want to just rephrase it, because I don't understand that question. Avantika, I think there was a question. I can't get to it for some reason. So if Avantika Sharma, if you want to just write your question to all, I'm not sure how to open that up. Okay, another question. So we're coming to the end. I'll take a few more questions. So in case we have a negative intuition. Okay. Negative intuition. Our intuition is neither negative nor positive. It's wisdom. And our intuition tends to feel good. If our intuition is scaring us, likely it's not our intuition. So instead of going more deeply in that avenue or topic, I'll leave it there for the purpose, again, of this seminar, of this kind of 1-hour lecture. If our intuition is starting to scare us, likely it is not our intuition, okay? And Andy, yeah, once again, if you can rephrase that question, I can answer it. And if not, you can sort of send me a private message through the center and I can get to you. Also, Avantika, I'm sorry, I can't get to your question. I'm not actually sure if you wrote a question, it just says your name here. So yeah, any other questions? I think we'll come to an end. Again, I am really passionate about this topic and I can talk about it a lot more. I do have a training coming up. I've been doing this training now at the center, I think since 2018. Usually it's a 4-day training. We call it clairvoyant training. And we develop the intuition. We develop your psychic faculty of clairvoyance. You will learn a lot of meditation tools and techniques to learn how to ground yourself, to learn how to connect to spiritual information, to open up your energy channels, to open up the infamous third eye. You start to learn about your own energy. Another part of intuition is understanding your energy as opposed to somebody else's energy. So we go deeply into that. Then you learn how to read yourself, give yourself self readings, as well as learn how to do readings for others. And when I do the training, I always love to tell everyone that we really develop our intuition, and we develop so much more when we give readings to other people. We develop our ability to be able to read other people. We develop our ability to understand other people, to deeply understand human behavior, human condition, to understand other people's energies. And when we can have that deep understanding that comes with that development, again, so much changes for us in our life. And again, I can say that from personal experience. When I started giving readings to people, that's really where I started to understand the other. So it wasn't anymore about the other against me or the world against me. It was more about, we're all in this together. And the way I am suffering with my emotions, the other person can be suffering with their emotions. And the way the other person reacts and behaves can just be based and because of that emotional chaos that they're going through. And when I started to give readings to other people about other people, or really going deeply into a person's energy field, I started to really, really deeply understand emotions, emotional behavior, reactions, energy in ways that I couldn't ever understand from a lecture or textbook. It was that sort of direct experience. So again, I can talk more and more about this, but I'll sort of end there. If you are interested, you can just connect with me through the center, and we can talk about intuition more, clairvoyance more, training more, whatever it is that's going on for you. Yeah. Okay, Andy. Yeah, I just want to get to your question. How can you help yourself not going back to the thought loom patterns and this act of betrayal? Yeah, I understand. When you don't know where your partner is, even if sometimes I'm just saying that he is with someone else. Yeah. So like I mentioned before, when it comes to something that we are deeply emotionally connected to or attached to, it's difficult to decipher what intuition is and what our emotional reaction is or our mind is. So what I would suggest is try and get a reading, actually, if you want, if that's something that you're open to help you understand your own energy, the other person's energy, and then you can see, oh yeah, it wasn't my intuition, or it was my intuition. And a really nice way to start to trust your own intuition is to get it validated, get it confirmed. So I would suggest that. Again, it is tough when you're in a relationship situation, when you're in an emotionally attached situation, to really know what's your intuition and what's your emotions and what's the mind and what should I listen to. It is very difficult. So like I said, also trust there's a greater good, there's a greater orchestration of everything that's going on. See if you can fall into that place of greater trust, sort of trusting God, trusting the universe, that greater trust. And see also if you might want to get a reading to check in to see what these thoughts or intuitions are. It can definitely really, really, really help you, especially during this time. So I'll leave you with that. And yes, it was so nice sort of meeting all you. A little difficult to meet you, but I connected with some of your energies. I saw your names pop up in the questions. If you guys have any more questions, you can just contact me through the center. I hope to see you all soon. I do meditations every Sunday evening if you want to connect back into my energy. Every Sunday evening, I do energy healing meditations. I have the clairvoyant training coming up. I do Reiki training. I'm around. So yeah, I hope to see you soon. And thank you so much for this evening. And I will sign off now. Bye, everybody.